All right, we are live on the air. Today is Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. We are in the middle of Spooky Games month here, and I'm joined with Tim the Dad.
Yo.
And Tim the Elephant.
Hey, guys.
And so we are going to kick off our show. We're going to be talking about friendly local game stores, and then we also have kind of, in one aspect, it's a little bit of a spooky game to talk about a little bit later on with Gateway Uprising. But let's talk about first what's been hitting our tables. We're going to kick it off with Tim the Dad.
Hey, all right. So this is the spooky month of October. So been playing a lot of spooky games. First up, we have Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. Now, this is from Mattel Games. It is, I would say, more on the kid end of the spectrum. But, we're big kids, so we can actually have fun playing this, too. We refer to this as Ghost Pandemic because there is a mechanism in the game where if you add too many ghosts, guess what? The room gets haunted. You flip a card to find out where you're going to be adding ghosts, so got that pandemic feel. We played this at lunch a couple times. Group seems to like it, so we just published tonight our show on this, and I think somebody else is publishing a show very quickly on this, if I'm not mistaken. Next up, I have another game that I think Tim Norris is likes a lot, and that is Kingsport Festival. Now, I will say that my game group liked this, but there is constant comparison to Kingsburg, probably because the main designer right there also designed Kingsburg. So I just published our show on this the other day, and in our review, we do a review of this, but then we do a review, kind of a comparison review between this and Kingsburg. So if you're interested in that, check that out. By the way, I really do like that game. That's a lot of fun. But I'm a fan of Kingsburg, so go figure. And then lastly, I was able to get my hands on a pre-Essen release of Harvest from Tasty Minstrel Games. We've been playing this the last several days at my lunch group. This has been a really big hit. It's a very simple worker placement. You're not doing too many actions. In fact, you only have 2 workers, and that's all you're going to ever have for the game. Plays over 5 rounds, so we're able to get a complete game even with 4 players today in our lunchtime. So it's been a lot of fun. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this. So that is Harvest, and that is my 3 games. Let's kick it over to Tim Norris and find out what he's been playing.
So the last 2 weekends, I've been able to have game day with my friends, which has been great. We've been playing, which I know you guys, if you're watching my channel, Azul, we played that 3 times in the 2 game days I've had. So that one's been a huge hit for the game group, getting it to the table and getting it played. I've now got probably around 15 games of that in. I really, really like Azul, guys. We did play another game that's called Unearth. I don't have that one. I believe it's by Brotherwise Games. A friend of mine has it, and I played that twice. It's pretty fun. It's basically like you have these locations, and then you roll dice that represent like your workers. Each location has a value, and so as you roll the dice, you place your die on there, whatever value it is you're trying to meet or exceed the value on the card, and then whoever has like the highest value basically can take that card. Then it becomes like a set collect kind of deal. But at the same time, you're also collecting stones that you're going to be able to use to create like a, hang on, I'm going to sneeze. I'm trying hard not to sneeze. I'm holding it in. Okay. As you collect the stones, you set them up, and 6 of them, and then in the center, once you get the 6th one in, you could put a, I'm trying to think of what it's not an artifact, it's like a temple of some sort. I can't really think of the name that they actually use for it. which is cool because that can score you bonus points as well. So you get like points based upon those temples you build. You get points based upon the set collecting, and it's a really fun game. And then you also have cards that allow you to mess with the dice that are either already out on the table or the ones that you're about to roll. So really fun. I like Unearth. Azul's really good. And then Fate of the Elder Gods. We just did publish our video on that. Wow, man, I really fell in love with this one. Good time of year for it, too, with Halloween around the corner. And great spooky game, Lovecraft theme. You're taking on the role of a lodge, and you're trying to summon your elder god. And whoever summons their elder god first wins the game. Or you can try to close down the gate of the opposing lodges and seal their chances off and possibly win that way. So Fate of the Elder Gods, Azul, and Unearth, all three are really fun games that I've been playing a lot of lately. How about you, Dave?
Okay, so let's see. Over the past couple weeks, I've had a chance to game with a bunch of different people. I went to a meetup. There's a website called meetup.com, and there's a number of board game groups that are around me, and I got a chance to play a game called Colossal Arena. And I never played this before, and this is an older one from Fantasy Flight Games. It's like published in 1997, I think it was. So it's got some years on it, and essentially what it is you are placing wagers on these different fighters, and over the course of a number of rounds, you are playing cards out of your hand, trying to manipulate these fights per se, and the cards have different numbers on them. And at the end of the round, when the cards have all been played, whichever fighter has the lowest value in that row is going to die. So you can try to manipulate things, and people are placing bets as to which ones they think are going to be alive at the end of the game, and you score points that way. And then the next, so like the first round, if you're wagering on somebody, it's worth the most points if they can last because you're speculating kind of early. There's some really interesting twists on the cards. Sometimes if you have the most influence, you are considered the backer, and so when you play certain cards, they have special abilities on them that you can use. I really, really enjoyed this game, and I'm actually going to try and pick myself up a copy. I thought it just really surprised me. I know I was talking to Tim Norris about it, and he likes that one too. It's quite a bit of fun, and I know that one of our viewers, Daniel over in Macedonian Daniel, he was interested to hear what I had to say about the game, and I would say if you can find a copy, pick it up. We played it with, I think it was 5 people, had a blast playing that one. Last week, or actually no, this past Friday, we played Mysterium with the new expansion, Secrets and Lies, which I'll be having a review posted for it before Halloween. The new expansion, what it does, it doesn't really add much to the game. It does add a new type of like a thing that you have to, as the psychics have to solve. So before, you would have to find like the person and then the location and the object to try and solve this case. But now you can swap out the object cards, and they give you these things called story cards, which could show like a potential motive. So you can use one or the other. So instead of trying to use like the ghost giving vision cards to try to describe a weapon, now it's trying to describe another scene. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. The game also comes with 6 new characters, 6 new locations, 6 new objects. I think there's 18 story cards. But the best thing is there's 41 more story cards. So there's a lot more clue cards for you to for the ghost to be able to give clues with. Now, one thing I did notice in the expansion, and it's not a big deal, but the cards, the earlier ones had a matte finish. These ones have a little bit more of a shiny finish, so they don't quite match up. But it's not a big deal because it's not like you're having anything hidden in your hands. And when you're drawing so many cards as the ghost, it's not going to make that much of a difference. But it was something that I did notice. The other thing is that with the new stuff, you have some of the characters look really, really similar, so it ramps it up a little bit in terms of difficulty. And then finally, the third game that I got a chance to play, I went to a convention in our state called FlatCon this past weekend. I went with my friend Chris King, and we got a chance to play Queen Domino. I have an advanced copy of that. The game will release at Essen. Basically, it is a follow-up to King Domino, but it adds a little bit. You're able to build some buildings, and those will give you victory points, or they'll also will give you some end-of-game scoring opportunities. And there's a couple other things in there with being able to collect money by placing knights out on the board. I know that, I believe, Tim, you guys published a playthrough for Queen Domino already, yes?
Yeah, we did, and yeah, it's a really, really cool upgrade to King Domino. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, and so the nice thing is that in Queen Domino too, you play all of the tiles, so you don't have to take any out, and you build a 7x7 grid, which is really awesome. And the nice thing is, if you already own King Domino, you can combine with Queen Domino to play up to 6 players. So those are the 3 things that that we got a chance to play. So. And the cool thing was they got a chance to play with a bunch of different people. So that's what's been
So
hitting our
Queen
games.
Domino is not a replacement for King Domino then. There's reason to have both. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and the reason being is that if you just want to play the simple game, you play King Domino. If you want to have a little bit more things to add to the game with like the construction and the buildings and stuff like that, then you have Queen Domino. But the cool thing is having both, you can combine the two so that you can play with more players, and it has some variance in the rules for mixing them, and you can play with teams and some other stuff too. So yeah, so it's to me it's like I see it the beneficial to have both. So that's it. All right, so topic tonight. Friendly local game stores, or FLGS, or as Tim Norris calls them, flags. A couple weeks ago, this topic came up quite a bit in another video. Our content creator had done a video and had started talking about friendly local game stores, and kind of caught a lot of heat for some things. And I just wanted to decide, well, hey, all 3 of us have local game stores that we go and patronize and hang out at. And so I thought, hey, why not talk about friendly local game stores, talk about some of the good, some of the bad, some of the otherwise, and some of our favorite things that are going on. So first thing I wanted to do is let's talk about some of the good things that friendly local game stores offer for us. Tim the Dad, what do you find, what are some of the good things that you see about some of the game stores that you've been to?
Well, pretty much I stick to one. It's not real local. It's about an hour away from where I live, but it is in the city that I work in, so that kind of helps. One of the biggest things is they have a very friendly staff. You walk in, they're saying hi to you. They know you, especially if you've been in there a few times. They're always welcoming. They come over, they talk to you. If you're looking on the shelves trying to buy something or looking for something, they're right there to try to help you. If you don't want their help, they won't bug you as well. They'll go away and leave you alone. But another good real thing about a good store is their selection. Do they have a good cross-reference of different types of games, or are they only carrying basically one thing? So for me, the big things are friendly staff and good selection. What about you, Tim?
I think for me, the main thing I look for in a local game store is just the ability. Actually, 2 things. We don't always have the capacity to meet up in one another's houses, so it's always nice to have a friendly game store available. Plus, they do have, I'm blessed, dude. I mean, I've got game stores all over around me. The other thing, too, is that they do have a lot of demo copies that are available for you to just open up and just play right there. That belong to the store. One I'll just name, Family Time Games. They've got like 3 ginormous shelving units that they just have stuffed to the brim with games, and I'm not talking about older games. I'm talking about games that just did release. And you can walk over there, pick them up, and play them, and it's a great way to try before you buy. So a comment that was made by a friend of mine, it was interesting, is that, no matter who you are or what race you are, what gender or anything, there's always geeks amongst us. Well, he said nerds, but we're geeks. But there are always geeks out there, no matter what your color is, your race, or anything. And without friendly local game stores, you just never know where can you meet up and try to find those things, because there's a huge difference between looking online and seeing videos on a product, but when you can actually hold it and have to look at it and feel the bits, and that tangible sensation to be able to have it in your hands and to look at the artwork and to be able to talk to others that are excited about the games as well, that creates an entirely different experience than what you could ever get from watching a video online where it's just, mechanical. So, I think friendly local game stores are beneficial for those reasons alone, just to have a welcoming place for anybody to walk in and just say, hey, sit down, let's play. How about you, Dave?
So, like you, I have a number of friendly game stores by me. And I don't even live in this. I live south of Chicago, which is the third largest city in the United States. But down where I'm at, it's not a really densely populated area. But I have 4 or 5 game stores within a half an hour drive of my house. And so I have different ones, and they all have different things. But I think the biggest things that I look for in the game stores are going to be the selection of games and a friendly staff. I think that's the biggest thing. When I walk in, I like to be greeted, say hello, hey, how are you? I don't like to walk in and be ignored, because I've had several instances where I've gone into other places of business. I'm trying to get any kind of associate's attention. If they don't get me, I just leave. I'll take my business elsewhere. But one of the things, like I said, a friendly staff. And so a couple things that I particularly like also are if there is a demo library. And like you said, Tim, having a tangible touching, being able to open up a game and try it, it can help you certainly with with buyer's remorse, because if you don't have access to those kind of stores, then you're buying on you're buying blind, or you're buying on the recommendation of somebody else who may or may not have the same tastes that you have.
Or being sponsored by somebody, and
right, where you're gonna paint a pretty picture of a game, and but I think that the other thing is selection, because it's like, there is part of having access to a friendly local game store. You have that impulse buy. You're feeling like, hey, I want to go out and get a new game, and I want it now. And so you want to be able to go to the store and be able to find what you're looking for, buy it, take it home that day. If you decide you want to do that online, you don't have that option of buying a game and playing it that day. So those are some of the positive things that I see in this. Those are some of the things that I look for in the stores. And fortunately for me, for the most part, I've got a couple stores that have really, really good selections. And I have there's one of the other stores that they've kind of tapered away from board games, and you walk in and their selection is terrible. So unfortunately, I don't go to that one anymore. It's not that there's anything wrong with the people that work there, but they have shifted their focus more towards miniatures-based games and role-playing games, and those are things that I'm not into. So unfortunately, there's not really very many board gamers there, so I don't frequent that one. So, what about any kind of negatives or some not so good things that you see about like with the game stores with Tim the Dad?
Well, I would say, I kind of touched on this in my cons about what I like about the game stores. When you walk in and they have just a very basic selection, if that even, and they're really catering to one thing. You were talking about, yours or one that you'd been to that has, they're into the role-playing games or whatever. One that I actually have in my town, I don't want to bash them, but all they care about is Magic. Whenever I've been in there, they're only concerned with pushing Magic. People are only playing Magic at the tables. They only publicize doing anything with Magic. And for that reason, it's been almost a year probably since I've stepped foot in the place because I'm not a Magic player. I've gone there several times in order to try to maybe play a different board game and see if I can get others to play, and it's just kind of not been the case. So kind of like you, I stopped going to that. Having a group or having a game store where you're not welcome, where if you're not part of the in crowd there, then you're a stranger, and they don't want your business, they don't want you in their store, type of thing. I've not really run into that, but I've heard about that from other people in other cities where they've walked in and they want somebody to help them. They're new, they may be new to the area, or in a lot of cases, it could be a college town and they're out looking for something and they just don't get that vibe that they're welcome. So that really is a negative. That really is pretty much it, other than I have been to several game stores where it's not a family type of atmosphere. You've got people in there that are swearing like sailors, and they have no regard to the fact that there's a bunch of little kids, right next to them. Really, there's no reason for that, and that's just a bad character on their part. But I also think that that's something that the game store should kind of step in and say, hey, guys, watch your language. We've got kids around, or that sort of thing, or inappropriate talk. But that's really about the only thing that I found as negatives. Tim the Elephant, what about you?
I've been pretty fortunate. I've not ran into too many negatives, to be honest with you. I've only got one that I could consider an experience of a negative. The thing about it, like Dave, mentioned right off of the bat, that the person who brought up this topic was kind of caught some slack over this, and the reason is because, when it comes to our hobby, it's more important to be supportive of those who are trying to drive this business than what it is to, drive people to online sales. That brings me to my point number one. Typically, you are going to pay more in a friendly game store. You're usually going to pay the MSRP, so you got to be prepared for that. That would be probably about the biggest drawback you're ever going to really run into, from my experience in a game store, is you're going to shell out some more cash, and sometimes that could be double the price. For a family man that has to, sole, worker in his house, and I'm the only provider for income, it is a big deal with price. But that's why I review games, so that I get them for free. The other thing too is there just may not be any space to play. I ran into that actually just last Saturday, because just like what Tim was talking about with Magic, they were doing the Magic tournaments, and we had plans to meet up there. Now, we did play there the Saturday before, and it all worked out in the end because we just went to a friend's house. But if there's not space to play, then yeah, there's just nothing you can do. There can be, and then I had this happen just one time in my experience. It was back years ago when I was into HeroScape. I walked into a game store, and I was talking to the manager about HeroScape and when they were going to be able to try to get the next wave expansion in. And he smartass about it and was like, well, I can't compete with the store with the big W on it. And he was talking about Walmart, but I just didn't know what the heck he was talking about, and I didn't understand his attitude about it. So that was only one time. It wasn't a huge deal. I did go back to that store again another time, and he was super nice. May have just been, having a bad day. Last but not least, if the store's not clean, that could really be a big turnoff. I don't like going into dirty places. And, look, these are our games. These are our precious babies. We don't want to just flop them on your nasty table and start playing. Look, we want a clean environment before we just start throwing our babies out there and exposing their bits all over the place. So those would be my 4 points on that. Just MSRP, place to play, rude staff, or dirty. And like I said, I've really not ran into that very often. So Dave, how about you, bud?
Okay, some negatives for me. I think the biggest one is unknowledgeable staff or employees that do not they don't know how to basically be a sales associate or a clerk. And there's one game store that's by me that has a couple of employees there that really don't have a vested interest in there because they're not the owners. And so when you show up in there, instead of paying attention to the needs of the customers, they're too busy sitting down playing games with their friends that are in there. Now, granted, sometimes it's nice to be able to play games with the owner of the store if they have time in there. But something like that, it's like when you have to like wait at the counter to make a purchase because they're too busy playing a game. That's a big turnoff for me. It's like you're supposed to be an employee first, then do that stuff when there's nobody else in the store. That is a big negative for me. Second one would be a lack of selection, and this is typically going to be in a store that doesn't generate a lot of business. They've got a lot of older inventory that's sitting on the shelf. So if you're going and looking for new games, if they're not bringing in a lot of stuff, you're going to turn around and walk out because you're going to be disappointed at what you're seeing. So I think it's important for a store to have a good flow of new product coming in. If you're not bringing in new product, it's just sitting there, you're either going to have to try putting it on sale to get rid of it so that you can free up some cash to bring in some new stuff. So those things. The other one you guys talked about, like language and stuff like that, is if you have a store that does not rein in some of that like swearing or just like kind of bad behavior. And I have not seen that in a store yet. And I've been to a number of different stores. They pretty much kind of keep the people in check there, which is a good thing because it is a place of business. And if somebody's coming in there, especially with their family, they don't want to walk into something like that where all of a sudden you think you're walking into a naval shipyard with a bunch of sailors cursing or anything like that. So I've been fortunate for that, but that is something that if you don't have a watchful staff can happen. And I think the biggest thing though for me is when you go into a local game store, the people that are there, and I've seen this witness firsthand, some of the groups that are playing there are very, very cliquey. And if you're not one of them, you're really not welcome. And so you feel a little awkward when you're walking in, hoping to be able to meet some new people and game with them, and you are completely shunned. And I know that I've had that happen several times at one of the local stores because the people that are there, very, very cliquey. And and even when it's on an open day when people are supposed to come in, you're looking to play with other people, and it's kind of like, nope, we don't really want to have anything to do with anybody but our own little group that's here. It's like, well, if you're gonna do that, just play at home. So, but those are some of the things that I have that I see as some of the negatives for some of the local game stores, some of the challenges that can come up. So. Anyways, I have a little bit of like an otherwise, and real quick, I just want to talk about a few things or bounce these off of your guys' heads. Is there anything else? I'll start with Tim the Dad. Is there anything else that you want to say about some of the game stores, whether it's like, something you didn't touch on before, some things that you're indifferent of, or some things about your local game store that you want to talk about? Give a shout out to them.
No, I'm gonna wait. Well, let's talk about the our particular favorites after we get done talking about this part.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Tim, the elephant, do you have anything to say, like otherwise, some extra things about some of the game stores that we didn't mention before?
I'm just laughing about the comments because Ray's talking. Was it Ray or Dan? Who's wearing adult diapers? You guys are killing me in the comments, man.
Oh, I know. We've got some guys over there that are just. We've got a lively crowd over on the chat that's going on tonight on the video cast. And so somebody like Tim Norris, who's like really like a 6-year-old in a 40-year-old body, he's enjoying the comments.
Yeah, I'm having too much fun. I know that this particular person, he mentioned sexism and racism and all that stuff, and how the online community is more friendly and blah 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 blah. I don't agree with any of that. Look, you're going to run into these problems anywhere you go, to single out game stores like they're the sole generator of these issues that we have in our social communities is absolutely ridiculous, and it's just a stupid thing to say. You know, if you're going to be scared to go to a game store because you think you're going to run into sexism, then don't go to bars, don't go to sporting events, don't go shopping, don't ever just leave your house, okay? You know, look, game stores are great places to be able to go and hang out. And just like what, you know, Dave and Tim both said, you know, it can be a place where you have to try to find your place. And, you know, but the thing is, anywhere you go, you're always going to be looked at as kind of an outsider, no matter what. It's not just a game store. You know, you hang out at a bar, you're the outsider. You go to a sporting event, you're the outsider. Eventually, you're going to have things that you're going to be able to find people and to have in common to talk about. If you're at a sporting event, you start talking about the game. If you're at a board game store, you start talking about the board games. You know, find common ground. That's how you make friends. So that's pretty much all I got to say.
Great point. Because I would say that in the game stores that I've been into, so maybe I'm not going to the places that that other person has been in, but I've not seen a single bit of racism or sexism in any game store I've ever gone to. I think that's more prevalent online, and I'm sure that it probably does exist in some places, but like you said, it's going to be anywhere you go. You're going to run into that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have never seen it before, and one of the things that I do myself is, as I've been traveling around, I make it a point to find if there's a game store, and I try and go visit it. So I've gone to, my daughter is in Ames, Iowa, and they have a game store out there. I went in there recently. I have a son who's in Carbondale, Illinois. They have a store that's down there. I went in there. I've gone to different places. I went out near in Fort Wayne, Indiana last year. I went and visited a game store out there when I was traveling.
You went to mine last week. Stay out of my store.
And I did go. Yeah, I was over the weekend. I was down over by down at the store that Tim Bresnan goes to, and I was told he told me I can't go there anymore. So now he's telling me I'm banned. So I guess online now is where I'm receiving harassment. So it wasn't in the local game store. So there you go. But you know, one of the cool things that you can't get at online, one of the things that you can only get at the local game stores are the organized play events. And and some of these publishers have worked very hard to create these organized play events. They have special promos, they have participation prizes and stuff like that. Last year I remember Asmodee had they have this Asmo Play series, and they had 7 Wonders duel tournaments. You can win, like you got promos for playing, like I think of the Statue of Liberty, and then you could win a set of metal coins, or they had metal pieces that you could have in there. They had some stuff for Mysterium. They had that mask, that creepy mask that Tim wants to wear to bed with Carmen and scare the pants off of her. They had special promo cards for that. All sorts of different things that you can only get in the game stores. And it's also a great way to show up, and you have other people that are interested in the game that are going to show up to play. So that's a great way to meet some people. So that's one of the really, really neat things that you can only get at the game stores. Now, quickly, Tim the Dad, things about your favorite game store.
All right. So if you follow me on Facebook, or I should say if you follow Dad vs. Daughter on Facebook, you'll notice that I always give shout outs to Red Raccoon Games in Bloomington, Illinois. In fact, we do like Tabletop Day. We usually are there broadcasting throughout the day. They are a great store. They've got a very good selection of games. They've got one of the best staffs at a game store that I've ever been around. An awesome owner in Jamie. They've got a pretty extensive game library, and they've got a lot of area for you to go in and sit down, and you're probably going to have somebody come by your table, and they're just going to make conversation, say, oh, what game is this? Or I really like playing that game, or whatever. So we strike up conversations that way. And they do have a clean bathroom, so that's always a plus. But very welcoming. I always enjoy playing there. In fact, I play there once a week with my gaming group. So if you're in Central Illinois and Bloomington, make sure you go by and check them out like Dave did. Dave, I'm only kidding. You're always welcome. At my table. We have an exclusive table. So, yeah, if you're in the area, stop by. What about you, Tim? Tim the Elephant?
Well, we've got a great place where you can actually sit down, order beer and food at Merlin's Beard up in Lafayette, Indiana. You can also pull games off the shelf and demo. We have in Indianapolis Family Time Games, which is a huge store and was quite the local meetup during Gen Con. Once again, lots of tables, sit down, pull games off shelves, demo them. We have White Flag Games in Mooresville, Indiana. We have the Game Preserve in Greenwood, Indiana, and Comic Book University in Greenwood. I recommend them all.
Man, so you got a lot.
Hey, that was just some of them. I didn't even name them all.
Yeah. So some of the ones local for me, I'm just going to mention 3 of them real quick. The first one, Amazing Fantasy in Frankfort, Illinois. I really like their selection of games over there. A couple years ago, they recently renovated their space. It got a lot bigger. They've got a lot more tables. And for International Tabletop Day, that's where we go. The owner over there, Lori Gentile, puts out she pulls out all the stops, has all sorts of prizes, participation things all day long. There's drawings for stuff. It's really, really good. Really cool thing is I brought my friend Chris with me, and my friend Chris is in a wheelchair, and that place is very accessible now, especially since it's bigger. It's easy for him to get in and move around, and so that's kind of important for us. Another store is Grapple Games. That's usually where we play. We've been playing. I've been there for almost 2 years now, I think. We play on Fridays there. Sometimes there's other days during the week. They have 2 locations, the one in Bourbonnais, Illinois, and there's one in New Lenox. Both of them have pretty good selection. The owners over there are great. So definitely, if you're looking for something, check them out. And then last one, we've got a new store that opened up. It's actually a franchise called The Gaming Goat. There's one down by me with Jay as the owner down there. He's really, really cool. Neat thing about there, when you go in, unless the games are falling under the map thing, they're selling their games at 30% off of retail. So it's like you can go and support a local game store and basically get the online prices. So that's very, very cool there. So those 3, all of them have great environments over there, plenty of tables to play games, and they all have demo libraries that you can check stuff out too. So if you're in the Chicago area down in the south suburbs, those are some places to check out. So that's it for our friendly local game stores. Last thing that we wanted to do, so we've got some time left, is a group review for Gateway Uprising. Who wants to tell us about this game? Which one of you guys?
I always have to do it.
Tim, I think you probably got more plays. I've only got 1 play of this end, so
I always have to do it. All right, so Gateway Uprising, the gist is that you are you have 6 city tiles that will lay out in the center of the table. It's a deck builder game where you'll be building your deck. You will be playing cards from your hand to build up an army in front of you to be able to invade these city tiles and defeat monsters, city guard, and even other players to try to gain control. There's events that happen at the end of each round, which will draw more monsters into the city, or possibly more city guard, or possibly give you a boost from one round to the next. The game will end either if somebody owns all 6 of the district tiles, or once the event deck runs out. So that's pretty much the gist of Gateway Uprising. So anyways, you guys want to start talking review?
Yeah, let's start with Tim the Dad. Your thoughts?
Well, I was actually going to defer to Tim the Elephant, only because I've only got 1 play of it in, so I don't have as much to say. So I'm going to save my comments. I'm going to interject here and there since I don't have as much. But
that's fine.
Go ahead, Tim.
I do have a list of good and bad, so I thought I'll start with my bad, my negatives. The text on the cards is too small. I wish that they would have had larger font for the what they were saying on the cards, because it's really hard to read and you have to look real close at the cards and it's frustrating. The tiles, the city tiles, are paper. I really wish that they would have made those cardboard instead. I think they would have looked a lot better. Plus, when they're paper, they slide underneath each other and it's a little frustrating. Whereas if they would have been cardboard, you know, in Punchboard, they would have just butted right up against each other, and it would have made a nicer look to it. The leaders, each person starts with one leader card, and they don't necessarily feel very balanced. It feels like some of the leaders are a little bit more powerful than the other leaders. But with that said, we did play a 3-player game, not last weekend, but the weekend before, and the one person that got the leader that we consider to be the weakest ended up pulling out the win in the end of the game. So maybe I'm not right on that. I don't know. But the first two definitely do apply. Dave, how about you?
Okay, first impressions. I got a chance to play this game. I've played it only one time so far, but I enjoyed my first play. Basically, like it's like Dominion, but it is you know, it gives you some purpose because you're trying to fight monsters, and you have some things that you can certainly try and aim towards building your deck for. I love the interaction with the monsters, the city guards, the fact that you can attack your other players. You know, don't get attached to having your markers on the board because they can basically come on and off, because you're vying for control for these different things. But during the gameplay, there were some interesting things that I don't know if they're really that great or not, but trying to have control of the different districts in the city doesn't mean you know, it doesn't really mean a lot, and because they're really not worth that many points at the end of the game. So it's like, I didn't feel like it was really necessary to spend a lot of time trying to control them. And real quick, Chris Simpson, right now I have 6 people that are living in the house, and I have 3 other ones that are out. So there was a total, for the past 6 years, there's been 9 of us. So it's been crazy. But anyways, back to Gateway Uprising. That was one of the things that that I kind of found in the gameplay that I didn't really find it was really worthwhile to have control of the city districts. Another thing that I do like, though, is the fact that there's multiple setups in here that, like, even in the rule book, you can play with. They give you different recommendations for setups, like which cards to use, which ones not to use. So I like that. A couple of other things that are on the positive sides, too. Once you're playing, the turns are very quick. It's very intuitive. And the game, I think it's easier to understand when you're using actions and playing cards. It's easier than Dominion, because you're always trying to keep track of how many buys and how many different things you can do in Dominion. And it's very, very simple with Gateway Uprising. You have 2 actions to start off with. Each time you want to play a card, it's an action. And there's additional ones that will tell you if you get an action. The game does have several negatives. I think the production quality on this game is a little bit lacking. The cards are a little bit on the thinner side, and like you said, Tim Norris, with the city tiles, it would have been nice to have had some cardboard in there instead of those paper things. But the biggest mistake with this game was the box. They made this box too small. Nothing fits in here. The insert is complete crap. You know, it's like you have to throw that out. And if you look here, I'm gonna try and take this off and show you. Well, I got stuff falling out, but it doesn't even hold the pieces in there. It's like it's just scattered in there, and it was just a really, really poor design. You can't even leave your little standees, your little territory markers in there. You have to take them apart for them to fit. So that's probably the biggest negative for the game. So, anyways, I'll turn it over to Tim Bresnan.
Okay. So like I said before, I've only played this game once. It was a 2-player game. The person that I played with, he wasn't really wild about it. He said he probably would never ask to play it again. Although if I definitely wanted him to, then you know, he would. But talk about some of the negatives on that I had. It's very dark. And I realize that's probably the way the whole theme is supposed to be, but because of that, it does
try to hurry up and get them in, because it
does make it hard to. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, that was me. I'm sorry. That was my bad.
But it makes it hard to read the cards. The theme being very dark, I really wasn't a big fan of. Like Tim said, you know, the city hexes are very thin. They slide all over the place. The artwork itself is kind of fishy, and I do mean that literally. It's kind of, everything is like almost a fish based. Um, yeah, that just didn't appeal to me. The things I did like about the game, though, was that it does come with a ton of cards. And like David said, there's all these different scenarios on the back that tell you, hey, try this setup with this and try this setup. I think there's like maybe 6 or 8 of those kinds of setups. So that's nice. So you don't have to. I mean, you can experiment and you can randomize it however you want, but these kind of work together. So try this thing out, try that thing out. Thing I like is that there are things that move around the city. There are some of those monsters that will come out and they'll move from one district to another. So I found that was kind of neat. The ability to attack other players. We had that player interaction I thought was good. I will probably play this a few more times, but based on my first impression, I don't see this staying in my collection.
Okay.
You done?
I'm done.
God, you're so wrong. I do like this one. I like the variety of the cards, like you guys already mentioned. There is a lot to be able to play, which leads to a lot of strategies. The last game I played, which, look, I'm a big deck builder fan, so you have to understand, I do fanboy over deck builders to begin with. But the last game we played, Bill was able to create a combo with a couple of the cards that I just simply had never seen before, and he absolutely dominated the game, and it made for a cool experience. Now, he still lost, which was interesting at the end. Kevin ended up beating him, but the point is that his strategy, if it would have went a little bit longer, holy crap, was amazing. I do like the fact that we have different types of cards that are just NPs that just sit out there and cause trouble. The monsters and the city guard, and they do different things and they act differently. And like you said, even some of the monsters will roam around. 3 of the monsters get on one city tile, they destroy it, which that's cool because the game can end with the entire city being destroyed by monsters, which has never happened, but it can. The game does play pretty quick because there is a timer on the game, and that's the event deck, which leads into the other thing is that I do like the events because they kind of keep adding a little spice to the game, and a little variability. No, I just think there's a lot of variety in this game. I like everything pretty well about it except for the small little nuances that I mentioned, but outside of that, I like this one quite a bit.
And I like this one too, despite the fact that I said that there was that one little thing that, about the controlling the city districts. That's minor because you're going to be getting most of your infamy points from defeating the monsters anyways. But the game overall, I like it. And like you, Tim, I love deck building games, and they don't have to be really complicated or anything, and I don't find this one to be very complicated at all. I do find that, like I said, the turns are very, very quick. My one thing that it probably would be disappointed with is we've only played it 2 players, and so when you start off, 2 of the districts were already in ruins, so I didn't even get a chance to see what those abilities were for controlling those districts, like when you take it over, so we missed out on that. So I'm looking forward to playing with more players, like at least 3, so that we have the full city in there. And I'm looking forward to definitely trying some of the other card configurations at setup. So I can see this game sticking around for a while. One of the things we didn't even talk about were those those energy what are those crystals or whatever the heck. They have some really, really awesome powers that are in there that you can activate.
The rune stones. The rune stones is what they are.
Those stones, holy cow. There's, some of those things, that's what makes the game really interesting, because sometimes you can pick them up, and if you get lucky, you find one, you could get it and use it right away and get something really, really awesome. Like I had one that I pulled up and I used it. I happen to have a lot of cards in my discard pile, and it was this resurrection stone, and I could pull all of my discarded soldiers out of the discard pile and deploy and put them into my play area. So I basically resurrected this whole huge army, and then was able to defeat like a couple of monsters. And so that was really, really cool. So, cool. But yeah, I think that the game is a lot of fun. I will say, though, I will agree with Tim Bresnan that it is a little bit dark thematically, and so it may not be like for little kids. They might be scared by some of the images on there, but I think overall the game is is pretty fun. You know, it's if you like deck building games and you're a fan of games like Dominion or even what's that other one, Thunderstone, then this would be something that you might want to check out.
I'm just glad this time I'm not the wet blanket. I'm usually the wet blanket.
So, anyways, so that's about it for. So I guess those are the final thoughts on Gateway Uprising. So real quick, as we're starting to wrap up the show, what do you guys got coming up on your channels, Tim the Dad?
So like I said, we just published Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. Halloween, I'm going to be publishing Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Got a lunchtime group that played that several times, so we'll have a review on that. And then Dragon Island we'll be having a review on, as well as Harvest. I'm trying to see if I can get a review of Harvest up in the next couple days. Fingers crossed.
All right, how about you, Tim the Elephant?
Well, we just did put up our copy of Fate to the Elder Gods. That went live today. We are also filmed today, Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters, and that'll be up this week. We're going to do a countdown to Halloween, and we're going to do 5 games, and we're going to release a video each day all the way to Halloween. So we're going to do Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters, Broom Service, Ghosts, Midnight Party, and Phantom Society. So look for all 5 of those out in a row.
Wow, nice. So, yeah, and over on our stuff, I'm waiting to see what I've got coming from some of my contributors. I know that I'm going to be doing some stuff. I'll have the Mysterium review up before Halloween. And I've been posting some stuff over on Instagram. So if you check out To The Table Review on Instagram, you see a lot of stuff that we've been playing lately. And I think on this week, probably on Friday, I will have something on Facebook, on our Facebook page with the backpack picks. So looking for a recommendation for a game on the go. And other than that, I think I'm going to try and get something out for Cannon Buster. That was an Essen game we played at Pirate Day. And I'm going to see if I can talk to see what Chris King has coming up. I know that he's liking a lot of these card games, so I'll be asking him what he's got going on. But yeah, that's the stuff that we've got coming up. Other things too, just to, you guys can mark your calendars if you're watching the show. Saturday, November 18th, I'm hoping to do some live streaming. I'm hosting TableCon at my house. It's an all-day gaming event. I know a couple of the people that are viewing the show are going to be there too, but the 3 of us will all be in the same location. So I'm not sure what we're going to be doing, what we'll be playing, but we will have a live stream going on there. So make sure you check that out. So as we wrap it up here, we'll have our goodbyes. We'll start with Tim the Dad.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
All right, guys, we'll see you. Thanks for, I hope you guys were all entertained with all the background scenery here with people and animals and stuff, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.